as far as I can tell, we all live in a culture that is obsessed with college students. As a case in point, if the number of movies that have been produced on this topic is any indication, I recently read a statistic that over the last century, there have been nearly 700 professionally produced movies that depict some aspect of the college student experience. And I think that one reason why people are so interested in this topic and why there is such a huge market for these kinds of movies is because there's such a strong expectation that college is the best 4 years of your life. But when you take a systematic look, of course, at real college students, it turns out that the experience might be a little bit different. Now, in addition to these movies, you can take a walk around any bookstore, and you will find an entire section on college guides, shelf after shelf packed with books that claim to provide insider information targeted to prospective college students and their families, telling them what they should expect college to be like. Or you can go to Amazon. Recently, I did a search for books about a college freshman. I got 851 returns on this search. That's 851 unique sources of information targeted to prospective college students and their families, again, telling them what the college experience is all about. Now, I took some time to sift through returns on this search, and one of the things that stood out to me is that one of the most common phrases in the titles of these books isn't how to be happy in college, or how to get good grades in college, or how to become involved in co-curricular activities during college. Those titles exist, but what's more common is to find books about how to survive college. So it's as if there is this call to arms. We have to equip students with the skills and the resources that are necessary to survive and endure college. Well, taking all of this together, my intuition is that if an alien were to come down to Earth to try to learn what the college experience is all about, if it were to base its impression off of the cultural messages that exist in books and in movies, I would expect this alien to come to the following conclusions. So after reviewing the hundreds and hundreds of books on the topic, I would expect this alien to conclude that, first and foremost, college must be survived, which, again, that word survival by implication suggests that college is this insufferable ordeal that we are putting young adults through in this country. So that's what I would learn from the books. Then, after reviewing the hundreds and hundreds of movies on the topic, I would expect this alien to come to the conclusion that the pursuit of higher education in this country today consists of the following: athletics, long-distance relationships, hooking up, drugs, alcohol, and toga parties, no hard work, it can be financed by planning campus-wide blowouts, and it's an experience that can be relived well into adulthood. Now, most reasonable adults will acknowledge that what you see in the movies is not always an accurate portrayal of reality. But as long as the cultural messages that exist are inaccurate, or at very least incomplete, the question in my mind, which has motivated my research, is what are the experiences of college students actually like? And in particular, I've taken an interest in understanding what are the characteristics of the most successful college students. So to gain insight into these questions, over the last 6 years, I have been collecting data on nearly 800 college students by asking them questions about their experiences on campus both inside and outside of the classroom. And when looking at the data, one of the most common themes that characterizes the most successful students is how the students respond to setbacks. When things don't go their way, when things don't go according to the plan they had or what their hopes or expectations were, how do the students respond to that? So for example, after students take their first round of midterms in the semester, many students receive grades that aren't quite as high as they were hoping for. What's most interesting to me is to look at how those students respond to that. Because I've seen some students who get a grade that's lower than what they were hoping for, and their response is, well, I must not be very good at this subject, or I shouldn't have taken this class, or this grade means that I won't get into medical school or to graduate school based on that one exam. And that is one way to interpret that information. Now, on the other hand, I've seen other students who receive an equally low grade, sometimes on the exact same exam in the same course as the first student, but the way that they respond to that information is by saying, well, now I know what the exams are like for this course, and I know what I need to do to prepare differently for the next round of exams. Now, in both cases that I've just described to you, the objective circumstances are identical. We've got two students taking the same class who just took the same exam and got the same grade that was lower than what they were hoping for. But for one student, the grade is a disaster. For the other student, it's an opportunity. And it doesn't matter about the reality of the situation objectively. What's more important is the mindset, how those students interpret that information. And we actually have some data to suggest that for some classes, performance on the first exam or on the first major assignment is not even correlated with overall performance in the class. Rather, a stronger predictor is the mindset and how students respond to setbacks early in the semester, whether they allow those setbacks to paralyze them or instead to motivate them. Now, psychologists have taken an interest in understanding what is it that predicts the likelihood that a student is going to rebound and bounce back after a setback. By show of hands, how many of you, when you were younger, participated on a sports team in which every kid gets a trophy or a ribbon just for showing up, regardless of the outcome of the game? Yeah, most of you. And this is a pretty common experience for people to report. Well, scientists now are taking a look at the impact of this kind of feedback on the development of these individuals. And in particular, there's a psychologist named Carol Dweck who has taken an interest in understanding the effects of different kinds of praise as it is associated with different outcomes. And she carries out her research in the following way. She brings young children into her lab, and she has them complete puzzles. And these children are randomly assigned to one of two conditions. One half of the children, after they complete the puzzle, are praised for their intelligence. They're told how smart they are. They're told how talented they must be for being able to complete that puzzle. For the other half of the children, after they complete the puzzle, they are praised for their hard work, for how much time and effort went into the process. Now, in the second phase of the study, the children are given a much more challenging puzzle to complete. And what she finds is that for those kids who had been praised for their intelligence, when they're faced with a more challenging task, they quit more quickly and they experience more frustration. And in the third phase of the study, when they are presented the option either to choose an easy puzzle or a challenging puzzle to do, the kids who had been praised for their intelligence are much more likely to choose the easy puzzle so that they can maintain that label that they've been given of how smart they are. Now, on the other hand, the kids who are praised for hard work, when they are given a more challenging puzzle to complete, these kids show more persistence and more enjoyment of that experience. And when they are given the option to choose either an easy puzzle or a challenging puzzle, they're more likely to choose the challenging puzzle because they acknowledge that that is the task that is going to allow them to continue to work hard and to continue to refine those skills. So here we now have experimental evidence that the kind of feedback somebody receives about their work and whether that feedback focuses on the outcome or the process will lead to very different interpretations of challenges and setbacks as they come up. Now, all of this is relevant to one of the mantras of positive psychology, which is learn to fail or fail to learn. How many of you have had the opportunity to observe a young child as they are learning to walk for the first time? Many of us. This is a relatively common experience. It happens to millions of kids every year. Now, for those of you who haven't had an opportunity to actually observe this, because it's so common, it often ends up on YouTube. So let's take a look together at what this experience is like.
Come on. Oh! Come on. Come on, John. Yay! Oh! You're okay. Pick yourself up. Pick yourself up, bud. Come to Dada. Come on. Come to Dada. Come on. Come to Dad. Attaboy. Like a monkey. Yay!
Learn to fail or fail to learn. Essentially, the kid kept falling down and he kept getting back up. But if that kid were like most adults I know, he would have taken 2 steps, fallen down, and said, well, you see it, I tried. Obviously, I'm never going to be able to walk because I tried it once, I failed. I'm never going to be able to do it again in the future. But no, fortunately, kids keep trying. They get knocked down, they get right back up again over and over. But something happens to us as we get older, where the fear of failure incapacitates us to the extent where we stop putting ourselves out there because we start telling ourselves things like, no, I can't try that thing, I might fail. I can't ask that person out on a date, they might say no. I can't take that class, I might not get an A. I can't have a difficult conversation with this person, I might not find the right words to say. One of the things that I have learned from doing research on college student development is that the most successful students are those who acknowledge that in order to be successful, we have to learn certain lessons and acquire certain experiences to gain that success. And very often, the best way, and sometimes the only way, to gain that experience and to learn those lessons is through failure. Through trying things one way, realizing what doesn't work, and then making the appropriate modifications in the future. So to get back to the question that motivated my research in the first place, what are the characteristics of the most successful college students? Well, it turns out that the cultural messages that we get in the books and the movies don't quite tell the whole story to answer this question. But when we take a systematic look at the experiences of real college students, the most successful students are those who have learned how to fail. And the way that they have done that is in the way that they respond to setbacks. And whether they interpret a setback as a signal of defeat or as a source of motivation. Now, at the beginning, I told you that my motivation for doing this research was to understand the extent to which those cultural messages might be backed or not by empirical research. But in the spirit of full disclosure, there is another source of motivation behind this research, which goes back to my own undergraduate days at Washington University, when I was a freshman here in the fall of 2001. Because shortly after arriving on this campus as a first-year student, within a couple of weeks, I went to my advisor's office, the office of Dr. Henry Biggs. And I told him that I did not belong at Washington University. And with tears in my eyes, I explained to him that WashU was too demanding and too challenging, and that there was just no way that I was going to make it 4 years here. And Dean Biggs listened to me, and he said, so it sounds like being in such a challenging environment makes you feel uncomfortable. And I nodded my head, and he said, Tim, that's not such a bad thing. Because when you allow yourself to get too comfortable, that's when you stop growing. When you allow yourself to get too comfortable, that's when you stop growing. And those words provided an entirely new perspective for my approach to the rest of my college career. It didn't make the work any less challenging or any less demanding, but when I faced those challenges and when I faced those insecurities, I then acknowledged that those were the experiences that were teaching me how to get back up on my feet after getting knocked down, and how to develop the resilience that would be necessary to pursue even greater challenges and even greater opportunities in the future. And looking back, it turns out that my 18-year-old self may have had more wisdom than I realized at the time. After all, I was right. I didn't last 4 years at Washington University. It's been 13 years, and I'm still here. And the advice that Henry Biggs, my advisor, gave to me all those years ago is the same advice that I give to my own advisees today. Don't let yourself get too comfortable, because that's when you stop growing. And after all of the hard work and all of the struggle, when you finally achieve the outcome that you've been working toward, and you finally end up in the place where you're supposed to be, there is a tremendous sense of gratification that comes from knowing how hard you've had to work and how many obstacles you've had to overcome to get there. And it's a great feeling. In fact, it feels almost as good as a little kid who has just learned how to ride his bike.
I feel.
Do you feel alive?
I feel happy of myself.
I feel happy of yourself too. What do you got, any words of wisdom? What about for all the other kids trying to learn how to ride their bike? Can you say anything to them?
Everybody, I know you can believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, you will know how to ride a bike. If you don't, you just keep practicing. You won't get the hang of it, I know it. If you keep practicing, you will get the hang of it, and then you can get better and better at it after you do it.
Give me some thumbs up.
Thumbs up, everybody!
All right.
For rock and roll!
So there we have it, words to live by. If you believe in yourself and if you keep practicing, you will get the hang of it, and then you can get better and better at it. Thumbs up, everybody, for rock and roll. Thank you very much.